Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Attic new release roundup. If you're new here, first of all, welcome. What we do here is we go back and forth. We talk about the latest home video releases. Um, the good, the bad, the ugly, the awful, the Candyman 3. That's usually our metric for the worst.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're here to check these out with us. And I'm gonna kick stuff off. I So longtime viewers will know we sometimes trade really spicy titles. So I got mine for the week. It is The Big Easy, and that cover is quite spicy. And so here's the back. We do have a really nice commentary track. This movie's a lot. I'm excited, kind of excited to get into it. And no reversible art, just disc. So yeah, I had never even heard of this one, but it looked interesting. And I know the big thing about this was, I believe this is the first Lionsgate film. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was right about that. Yeah, so that's exciting. So that I think that's kind of why I picked it because I was like, all right, it's a Lionsgate title for with Kino. I'm curious, like why this one? So I
Yes. I
picked
want
it.
more, I want more from that distribute. Like I cannot wait to see what they come up with. But yes, tell me about it. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, all right, I don't want to oversell this, because it's not good.
Mhm.
It's a very standard neo noir from the 80s. This was something that was kind of popularized in the late 70s with like Chinatown. This kind of bled into the 80s, doing like these neo noirs. I think this is very bog standard, unfortunately. It's very much like corrupt police in New Orleans. It's one of those like I very much guess the outcome. And if I can do that, that's not great because I'm usually not very good at that. Um, and it doesn't really have any memorable set pieces that really like make this film stand out in my mind. Like, unfortunately, I think if I didn't take notes on certain things, I would not really remember this movie. Like I could not tell you the character names.
Mhm.
Um, I know John Goodman's in it for a little while, which is cool, and he's got a very interesting accent. And that's where we're gonna that's the big headline is that I like Dennis Quaid. Okay, I want to just preface to that. I like Dennis Quaid. I generally I enjoy things he's in. His accent is really something. And I like even like I had felt like I was compelled to tweet about it, even it was so hilarious. But it's this sort of weird mixture between like Brooklyn, Boston. Sometimes he'll just drop it a little bit, and then there'll be a little bit of like a of stereotypical New Orleans kind of very. I mean, it almost kind of reminds me of like how exaggerated, purposely so, Daniel Craig's sort of foghorn leghorn kind of draw. Like this is that, but it's not like intentional. It's just that's the swing that he took. And
Mhm.
other characters to various degrees are doing really bad accents. And it's like hilarious and cringy at the same time. But it's very distracting. It really takes you out of it. And that's kind of a shame because again, I like Dennis Quaid. I think he has a lot of charisma. I think he brings something really interesting. My problem is I think that like the love interest isn't great with Ellen Barkin. Again, also love her. I think the chemistry's not there. And it makes this romance subplot even more awkward and strenuous. So yeah, it's something. I will say if you are a fan of this film, or it's been, I don't know how obscure it's been, but um it looks great. It looks really nice. The commentary track's really interesting. The director gets to kind of talk about like the accents and some of the choices, and I found that fascinating. And it is sort of worth it to check out the commentary track. I think it's pretty entertaining. Yeah, so it looks nice, sounds good. I just did not really connect with the movie.
Yeah, I'm also going to be suckered in by that cast, but I'm going to keep my expectations low. But like the main takeaway for me is at least like we've got this Lionsgate like deal going on. They
Yeah.
don't really contract out to a lot of other like specialty labels, so I'm excited that at least there's baby steps going on here, even if maybe the maiden voyage is not the strongest.
Yeah, and it is interesting because it is I mean, I didn't hate it. I thought it was just very by the numbers. I think that it does get into camp territory with some of the accents and stuff. It was very much like Tommy Wiseau-esque.
Mm. You so can this be like a so bad it's good type of watch with like friends, or is it not quite to that level?
I don't think it quite veers. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite get into that. Like it doesn't go hard enough to be really so bad it's enjoyable, but
Mhm.
I didn't hate it. I think if this piques your curiosity, maybe you're a big Dennis Quaid fan, check it out.
Mhm.
It's not horrible. It's just not good either.
Well, I do listen. I'm a little bit behind, but I do listen to this podcast called Quaid in Full, which like was a woman going through the Dennis Quaid like filmography from like beginning to end. So like this will be a very like pivotal point. So I can now have like a copy to watch. So
Yeah, I love
that's
that
enough
title.
for me to pick it up.
That title's amazing.
Yes. Moving on to my first title, I am starting off with one I was very intrigued by. This is a new 4K from Scream Factory, and that is The Haunting of Julia,
Mm.
which I had actually never heard about prior to it coming to disc. And I don't think it ever even got a Blu-ray release, at least over here. So some may know it by its alternate title of Full Circle, which you can kind of see that disc art here. That's on the Blu-ray, and then you have like the Haunting of Julia title on the 4K. And there is reversible cover art with that artwork as well, so you can represent the Full Circle love if you care to. So obviously, so this stars Mia Farrow, and this is obviously not the most iconic horror performance from Mia Farrow, but it is an interesting one. I think it's pretty effective. I had to say, this movie started off very rocky for me. Have you seen this movie?
I have not seen it. I've heard of it. So I'm curious what you.
Okay, this isn't a spoiler because it's like within the first 2 or 3 minutes. So Mia Farrow has like a young daughter, and they're like at it's like a breakfast scene where her daughter's like eating like an apple or orange, some kind of fruit, and she starts choking, and like the level of incompetency that these parents like take towards like trying to get her like her windpipe free is like start like they're just like digging their fingers down her throat. They're hanging her upside down. I was screaming at the TV. I was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, and I did look it up. The Heimlich maneuver had been technically in like introduced or invented, but it had only been a couple of years, so I have to give it like the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't in the public consciousness. But just like the way they went about trying to get this child's windpipe free was bonkers, and I was like, "What is this movie?" Unfortunately, on a sad note, the daughter dies, and but that's the kind of the whole catalyst of this movie is like kind of Mia Farrow starts to lose her mind, gets like in a mental institution for like a few minutes of expository like building, and then she gets out and moves like abroad to I believe London, where the titular haunting starts to happen. She starts to believe that she sees her daughter. She's like kind of like in this new environment, and just like everything's kind of a little bit eerie. And you kind of wonder, like, is it like uh, looming trauma from like her daughter recently dying, or is there something more sinister going on in this new house that she resides in? And if she is being haunted, is it her daughter who is coming back, or is it a different spirit? So those are the kind of answers you can expect in this movie. And it's like it's a decent kind of ghostly story. It's a little bit slow at parts. It it seems like, for lack of a better word, more like kind of artistic, like artsy, kind of psychological dread, which I love. But I think some people might find this a little bit slow. I think it was fairly engaging still. Mia Farrow, like, obviously she's a great actress and she puts on a great performance, and the ending is very effective. I'll just say that. So I think overall this is worth a watch, but don't go in expecting like a balls to the wall, like kind of like Exorcist level, like, I know that's like demons, but like something like truly terrifying. I think it's more like kind of like unsettling. So if you kind of go in with those expectations, I think you'll have a good time. So overall, it's a pretty solid, like, kind of gothic ghostly story. This 4K, this is its first time on like Blu-ray 4K and stuff. So this comes from a new 4K scan of the original camera negative. This is in Dolby Vision, and the picture itself looks really nice. This is kind of like it's like a movie from the 70s, I believe, 1977. There is like some grittiness and like kind of that 70s texture that you had back then. So it's not like a crisp, clean picture, but it's not supposed to be. There are like maybe some like lacking black levels, but like the 4K presentation compared to the Blu-ray, which is also from the same restoration, the 4K is like much better at resolving blacks and having some detail in there. But there are still kind of like little minor things here and there, but overall it's a really solid picture. The audio is more of what I think I have an issue with. It's not terrible, but it does kind of have kind of that kind of tinny, kind of like sibilance. Like you have like kind of like a S's, like whenever like that sound is made, sometimes like you'll hear like a little like kind of hiss at the end of certain words. It's not super distracting, but compared to some restorations that I've seen, like Blu-ray 4Ks, this is kind of a little bit more lacking in the audio department than kind of what I've kind of become accustomed to. It's not terrible, but like I do want to point out the audio is not like a 5-star. It's like 3.5, I would say. But this has some good special features. It has an audio commentary from the director. It has a series of interviews with some of the performers, like the young girl is now older. There's like a 11-minute interview with her, an 11-minute interview with one of the other actors. There is a 25-minute retrospective with historian Kim Newman, who I know sometimes you're hot and cold on, but he's always pretty informative. And this is a good piece on the film. And so overall, some pretty good special features that give some context. Nice video presentation. Audio maybe could be better, but I know that they probably did their best with the elements they had. And like you had the reversible cover art, slip cover if you get in early. So overall, it's a pretty solid release of a ghost story I had not known anything about. And yes, it's not to the level of Rosemary's Baby, but in terms of Mia Farrow horror, it's still a good watch.
Nice. Yeah, when you were describing it, I automatically was kind of thinking it seemed a little like Don't Look Now.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like with shades of like The Changeling. But yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah, this is one that I've heard of. I think I've heard of it just by virtue of it was like late 70s with Mia Farrow, and it's got some like supernatural stuff, which sort of banks off of Rosemary's Baby from the late 60s. Yeah, no, that's cool. That I think I'm definitely gonna check out. I have always kind of wanted to see that, but yeah, it has been a little bit hard to find up until now. So um so there's a 20th anniversary that makes me feel super old because I saw this in the theaters. And that is Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. Now there is so this is the steelbook version. So want to show this off. And ta-da! And I love this steelbook. This is really awesome. There's the back. And,
Whenever you start talking about the movie, I'm gonna pop off for just a second, but you keep talking about it. I'll be right back.
okay. So this is the inside, and I'm gonna pop these discs out to show you what the interior artwork looks like because it's really cool. Um, it's really awesome. I actually got to meet Bill Moseley and Sid Haig. Like Sid Haig, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but he was really nice. So yeah. Now, as far as the movie goes, it's an interesting one. I will say that whatever you think of Rob Zombie as a director, he never plays it safe. Like I think that he always really kind of wears his love of the genre on his sleeve. And yeah, this kind of plays out like a monster model kit of Spider Baby and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a little bit of Hills Have Eyes. It also is really interesting how um, you know, this was very much inspired by Tobe Hooper's filmography, again, especially Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and um, this has Bill Moseley, who was in Texas Chainsaw 2, and the sequel, Devil's Rejects, would be like the reverse of Texas Chainsaw, where the first one is like very bright and bold and colorful, and the second one is very like grindhousey, which again is the reverse of the way Texas Chainsaw did it. And I don't think that's I think that's probably by design. So this ports over everything from the original release, but we also get a disc that's new with a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that I believe is exclusive to this 20th anniversary set. Now, I did a little digging, and the regular set, not the steelbook, has like a booklet and some cards and stuff.
Yes, that's actually what I went to
What you
get.
had?
I don't want our viewers to feel like I was being disrespectful. I could still hear you, but I we did not compare notes. I got in the this bigger set, which I do like. I don't like that it's kind of like DVD size. It's kind of like for shelf space, like people needing shelf space. This is kind of like a thick mamma jamma, but yeah, I'll just show this off real quick before you get more into it. So this had like this is kind of the back thing, the not J cards because it doesn't loop, but like that comes off. Here's a pretty thick booklet here. So you have like some artwork and all kinds of stuff in here.
Upside down.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, sorry. Like whenever you're looking at corpses, who knows how
oh, right.
So yes, you're right. My bad. So yeah, artwork here. I'm not sure if there's any. It looks to be all photos. I don't see any text in here. So these are all like still photos and
nice.
A poster, it looks like. With I did not intend on hijacking your time.
Oh no. I'm that's
so
like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I like we should have confirmed which each of us had gotten, but
yeah. I'm super glad you shared that because I think like even though I got it in the steelbook, I might down the road pick that up because
yeah.
Oh, cool.
Here's some art cards. I haven't opened this up. I can try to like get that open while you're talking and show the rest of those off. And then here's like the Blu-ray has the standard artwork as well. I assume it would have the same disc art.
Yeah,
but
mine as different. I think it's so there's
wow, they did do something different. Here, let's show them off. That's wild that they did different disc art.
Yeah, wow. No, that is interesting. No, I'm glad you had that because it does inform you.
Ooh. The interior of so they didn't just do like a solid color. They did like Couture
Nice.
artwork here.
That's pretty cool. I have a Subway poster of it's like alternate artwork for House of Thousand Corpses. This thing is like 5 feet by 6 feet. It's huge.
Jeez.
I want to get it frames professionally framed sometime, but it was signed by I had Bill Moseley and Sid Haig sign it. And like it's folded up in the closet. Like, but yeah, I want to get it like framed. But yeah, I love this movie. I'm a huge fan of the sequel. I think the sequel is like not as fun, but it's definitely better realized. I think that like the best way I just can describe this film is like it is the equivalent of going on a dark ride and like things pop out at you and things are over the top and garish and colorful. I think this release, transfer wise, I think it really taps into what Rob Zombie was going for visually. Again, this is a mishmash of Spider Baby, of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like I said, a little bit of Hills Have Eyes. If you've never seen Spider Baby, it basically inspired Toby Hooper. I mean, he like Toby Hooper didn't rip it off, but you could definitely see how like the themes of like a cannibal family and stuff kind of inspired people like Toby Hooper and Wes Craven, and then Rob Zombie. So, he wears all of this pretty proudly. And it's a fun movie. I really enjoyed checking it out, and that's a really cool release. You got a really cool release. I think I might have to pony up and get that one too as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Go ahead.
no, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's awesome that you have a different version so everyone can see, which one, because yeah, like this one's a little more streamlined. It's a little more like you don't get all the bells and whistles, but it's probably a little bit more like it's probably a little bit on the cheaper side. But I will link both in the description so y'all can have that option.
Yeah, here's the art cards. I got them open. So like here's the first one, and then you have like little like script notes on the back. Here each of these do. I won't show off every single script note, but
Was this Rob Zombie's artwork?
uh I don't know. I can probably check on the back of the insert. Here's
Nice.
Spalding. There. And is that, I think there's one more. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It doesn't say on the back of this. It's probably in the press release, but I cannot tell just from what I have here in this room.
Yeah, no big deal. I also wanted to mention it wasn't in there, but mine came with a digital copy. Did yours?
Yes, it did. I've already taken it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yes, if that matters to you, they both have digital copies, which is awesome. Yeah, gosh, Lionsgate did a really nice job of doing a nice release on this, and I'm kind of hoping that we'll get a nice Devil's Rejects thing. I was kind of hoping for like a 4K maybe trilogy set, but I don't know if I don't think there's anything in the works for that, but I'm happy with this release. So
yeah, I can't believe they didn't make this a 4K. That's insane to me. Like they went through all this trouble, like they did add new special features and stuff and like all this stuff. And I was just like, why not make it a 4K? Like it is an upgrade for me because I only have the DVD and honestly, I haven't seen it since it like came out. So it's been a while since I've seen this movie.
What did you think of it? With want to revisit?
I haven't revisited it yet. I need to. I haven't been able to. But like my initial, from what I remember, is like I have a strange relationship with this series. Is like I was kind of put off by House of a Thousand Corpses when I first saw it, but I was like 12 or 13, something along that. But I love The Devil's Rejects. It's like one of my favorite like horror movies. I wouldn't really say horror movies, but like I really love The Devil. I've probably seen it like 6 or 7 times. I saw that one in theaters, and I was like, ooh, this is like such a different vibe than House of a Thousand Corpses that I really loved. So I really hope that gets a 4K release. I still have the really packed DVD, which I didn't port over all the special features for the Blu-ray edition, which had like probably like 4 hours of special features on like the DVD of the Devil's Rejects, which like I devoured when I was younger. And so hopefully they'll do like some kind of deluxe set for, like you said, for the Devil's Rejects.
Or like the trilogy. And
Mhm.
while I'm talking about like wish list, like I think Lords of Salem is like my all-time favorite Rob Zombie movie. I think that's his.
Nice.
It's like, yes, he's doing Ken Russell, but I love it so much. And it's like, even though it's very Ken Russell, like it's very much Rob Zombie in his sensibility. And I remember the first time I watched that, I had like a really high fever, and that was kind of the best way to watch it because it's what it feels like. So yeah, no, it's great. Both of those editions are pretty awesome.
Yes, you have two fun things to choose from. I don't know. There's not an easy transition to my next title. It is like as far as even though I could see like Rob Zombie making like a kind of his own weird version of this, like he did the Munsters. But I will just say I'm digging in to the classic flick series Blondie from 1957.
Hmm.
It's your classic sitcom based on the comic strip Blondie, which surprisingly, like it's called Blondie, but this primarily focuses on her husband Dagwood, which is he's probably most famous for eating some crazy sandwiches. But this is like a really long running comic strip. There are 26 episodes in this series. And you get all the kind of the episode descriptions on the reverse of the artwork. We have 13 episodes on each disc, and so it's basically it's not entirely different than kind of your normal like standard like family sitcom. There's like the kind of like the strange husband of Dagwood who's kind of like always getting into mishaps, and Blondie's kind of like his understanding wife, and he has his children who sometimes can be little scamps or like get into things, and the family dog can like they make bubble baths that are like overflowing and stuff like that kind of like quaint 50s sitcom situation. But like if you're in that mood, it's like it's just like a fun vibe to ride, and like especially if you're not necessarily like binging through this, if you kind of like dull this out as like kind of a throwback to like an era that we don't really get as much, like it's just kind of like a really comforting watch, because I love like all those classic sitcoms like Bewitched, Leave It to Beaver, Dick Van Dyke. Like my Dick Van Dyke Blu-rays are like very precious to me. Like I love having those. So this is just I'm really glad that this I had never heard of this series, like, to be honest, but like it's a really interesting uh like part of like popular culture that like I just never knew about. And so I'm glad that Classic Flicks took the time to rescue this for me at least, and like from and like give this a really nice presentation, because this has been, like I said, it's all 26 episodes of the series, been restored from the 35 millimeter elements, and by and large these look really nice. You'll still see like some minor nicks here and there, but like these have been carefully restored. This is the same label that remastered the Abbott and Costello show that I talked about like over a year ago. But like they do really nice jobs with their TV releases, especially when they go to Blu-ray. So I'm glad this did get a Blu-ray, and it sounds pretty like solid too. There's not really any special features on this, but just for having like this classic series on Blu-ray, I'm I'm glad it happened. It's a really nice release. Classic Flicks, I think they always put like a level of quality into their work that I really admire. So if you're a fan of classic 50s sitcoms, and even if you haven't heard of this one, check out Blondie, because it's like right in that kind of vein that you really want from the era, and I think they execute it really well. So it's been a lot of fun going through these.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Just very short side tangent. Do you remember the show Hazel?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that one too. I was like, I don't know
Nice.
why it gave you that kind of when you were describing it. I
Yeah.
also like weirdly find the old Dennis the Menace series pretty charming.
Nice. Yes. That's great.
Um, listen, I love like the gory House of Thousand Corpses, but I also love shit like that. I could definitely see like now I kind of want to see a Rob Zombie Blondie
Yeah,
remake.
do
Uh,
it.
let's make that happen. So yeah, I don't know if it's a good transition for this either, but we have a Dennis Hopper directed and starring film which piqued my interest, and that's called Backtrack.
Mhm.
And here's the back. So I know we say this a lot. And oh yes, this is also wanted to mention this is also another Lionsgate title. So and yeah, I know we say this a lot, but if you want the slipcover, you want to get
Mhm.
that early. And I believe that there's no interior artwork. Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's not a good film, but I did find it fascinating, kind of. So I had trouble finding this film because it's also known as Catchfire. And this is from 1990. So this is a kind of a weird mix of like trying to be like a little bit Brian De Palma, and there's also kind of some Lynchian sort of shades. And Hopper did work with David Lynch before, so that's doesn't seem like that far-fetched that he would try to kind of cultivate that kind of vibe. I will say it's a mixture of a lot of interesting ideas, but they don't all come together.
Mhm.
Um, this is sort of compounded by the fact of that it's like a 2 hour long runtime. And yeah, like there's some interesting things going on. This has a really interesting cast. Like I know let me look it up really quick. But yeah, it just didn't work for me. I think that it had the movie sort of leaned in more towards this really weird kind of Lynchian thing. I mean, the whole thing is like Dennis Hopper is basically trying to kill Jodie Foster because she like witnesses a crime, and they need to eliminate her. But Hopper's character kind of like kidnaps her, and they have this weird sort of romance. But this has a very eclectic cast. Dean Stockwell, Vincent Price, Julie Adams, Fred Ward, Cy Richardson, who fans of Repo Man will know. Cy. I've actually interviewed him before. Super nice guy. Yeah, just tons of really good actors, all in this movie. It kind of feels like Dennis Hopper's like, I'm making a movie. Here's my Rolodex. Okay, Vincent Price, Julie Adams, just like this weird mixture. And like these character actors are in for one or two scenes, but that's like a day's work and a nice paycheck for them. That's awesome. But yeah, it's fine. I am not the biggest Alex Cock fan. I know longtime listeners. I try not to like drone on about my not liking him, but it's for personal reasons. Like he gave me by far one of my worst interviews
Mhm.
ever in my career thus far, and that's all I'll say. But anyways, if you do like him, and a lot of people do, they just I forgot to mention Charlie Sheen is in this
Oh,
for a little
okay.
while. Yeah. So winning. um but yeah, this is interesting because this has two versions of the film. There is a theatrical and a director's cut. I watched the theatrical. I haven't had time to watch the director's cut, but um the director's cut is 6 minutes longer than the like the theatrical. So yeah, that's why I was like saying that it's a little bit too long. I think that it could even be more condensed than the theatrical, but yeah, it's an interesting movie. I love the cast. I just think the plot is kind of meh, and it doesn't fully commit to like this weird kind of Lynchian thing, which I think would have maybe saved it. I before I wrap this, I will say Jodie Foster, um there's just one scene that I love that I don't remember anything about the movie, but this. So she is evading, like Hopper's character. She goes into this restroom. There's a woman who I guess she's coded as a sex worker, and like Jodie
Mhm.
Foster's like, I will give you all my money I have to let borrow your jacket, your wig, your sunglasses. So she comes out in this like big poofy like blonde fright wig, glasses, this like amazing like over the top coat, and like she's trying to like be incognito, but it's hilarious and it's everything. And yeah, so it's fine. It's interesting to see all these like character actors like crammed in this movie, but yeah, it looks great. It's from 1990. So it's not really that old, because that would mean I'm old. So it's not
Of
old,
course,
and
of course.
and I think it looks really nice. I mean, the colors are really handled nicely. They're not oversaturated. They're not like smooth to death. Kino does a really good job of, I think, maintaining the integrity of like what the filmmaker was going for, and it does still kind of have this sort of gritty, grimy look to it. So yeah, Backtrack or Catch Fire, it's fine. If you like Dennis Hopper, Jodie Foster, a little bit of kookiness, throw in Vincent Price in there, you could do worse.
Sold. I guess we'll see where I fall on it, but like I with that cast, I at least have to try it out just to see how it goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, another one for that Lionsgate deal. My next title. So especially talking to you, I need to give some context to this film, but I'll just say this is from I don't know exactly how to pronounce this company. I'm gonna guess it's Arbeos, but this is Cinematic Sorceress, the films of Nina Menkes.
Hmm.
And you might say, who is Nina Menkes? If you don't know, I know you would know her from. She directed a documentary that we neither of us particularly liked called Brainwashed,
Oh.
where
Mhm.
she was looking at kind of like the male gaze in film and everything. And in that film, she, for some of her examples on how to do it right, she included a lot of her own films, her own work in it, which was one of my criticisms of that movie. So now with this set, I got to see some of her movies and see how it actually turned out. Before I get into the actual content, I'll just say this is a 2-disc set. So you have like 3 films here and 3 films over here. The first disc, the films are pretty short. The first one especially is only 40 minutes, and then you have like a 90-minute movie and then like a 76-minute movie, and then the other discs they range from about 80 to 90 minutes also. So there's a lot, especially on the second disc. The first disc is a little less. And then you have this booklet here. I actually have this right side up, so I I can tell with this one where it's supposed to be. So you do have some essays in here, kind of giving some context to her work. Um, I'm not going to break these down like movie by movie necessarily. I'll just say this includes the movies. The great sadness of Zohara, Magdalena Varaga, Queen of Diamonds, The Bloody Child, Phantom Love, and Dissolution. So what I can say about her films, she is a very like kind of experimental filmmaker, and I've seen people compare her to kind of like David Lynch, which you were just talking about David Lynch. So that was like, ooh, that's interesting. And I can kind of understand, but it's her work. I would describe as challenging. Um, I I would admit, just from like at least my initial watch, I wasn't completely engaged with every movie. I think some of the like artistry didn't completely work with me necessarily. There's a lot of shots of just like people just like doing like mundane tasks, like a woman like working at a casino, like just dealing out cards for about like 10 minutes in one movie, and I'm just like, all right, that's it. Like it's just like kind of like showing this woman going about her like daily routine and stuff. But like there are kind of like some stretched out shots, and just like and like the way she uses like repetition in certain movies, and a lot of her movies feel like very poetic and raw. And I think like a lot of what she talked about in Brainwash was like the point of view for like shooting sex scenes. And there are several sex scenes. There's a lot of her content deals with like sex workers, and a lot of like the time the camera is like focused directly on like their faces and stuff. Like you don't see a lot of like objectifying their bodies and stuff. Especially, I don't think it would be necessarily just because of this, but a lot of these movies star, I believe, her sister Tinka. So a lot of times, like especially you'll just see like these sex workers like in the middle of stuff, and they're just kind of like dead face. Like you can kind of tell how much they don't enjoy like this person who is on top of them, but it's just kind of like giving a little bit of extra context to like what they are doing in their lives, and kind of how they need to kind of like do certain things to get by and all that kind of stuff. But then there's also, it's kind of hard to contextualize a lot of her work, because then there's like she weaves in like elements of like spiritualism. Like I believe from what I gathered, I need to like kind of dig a little bit more into like the actual like context of the film from like maybe like a scholarly perspective. But like the Magdalena Viraga, it seemed to be like parallel a lot of like Mary Magdalene type of stuff, and like Virgin Mary, and like just like a lot of biblical elements, and like how like she was treated like as like a sex worker back in like those days, and like when like was she even really a sex worker, because of like the Bible was written by men. And so there's like a lot of like kind of that stuff. And then there's like kind of stuff that I think would like turn off a lot of average viewers, like dealing with like menstrual blood and everything, and like carrying around like aborted fetuses. Like there's a lot of wild shit in here. I was like she really, like I said, she's not objectifying people, but she is not like offering a palatable watch for like a wide audience. These are very like artsy, challenging, sometimes slow, sometimes confusing films. And I think they definitely have their like, there are some pros to this. Like I do think they are interesting films. I do like this set a lot more than I liked Brainwash. But I can't lie and say that I completely loved every minute of it, but I was very intrigued while I was watching it. And it is something that I'm open to like watching more of, just because I want to understand where she is coming from, and just like what this set like hold. Like there's a lot to this, I can tell. And there's like I can tell she's like, there's like even like one of the movies in particular is like commenting on like our, I think like our involvement like in the Middle East and stuff. Like there's some very like dark content involving like dead refugees. There's all kinds of stuff. Sorry, I'm like all over the place, but it's hard to categorize this as like one thing.
Yeah.
Like she like, and there are some like moments of like magical realism, and just like the way she uses like style and the camera and stuff is very interesting. She's a very talented filmmaker. I want to make that clear. She is just very challenging. So approach this with caution if you can. I would like probably sample like some of the films possible. I think probably like I would go with probably Queen of Diamonds. That's more kind of straightforward, I would say. And I'd probably stay away from The Bloody Child until you're more like acclimated with her work.
Yeah.
But
Is that the fetus one?
Yeah, the Magdalena Viraja and Queen of Diamonds are probably the easiest entry points for her, I would say. And also the last film, I believe it's Dissolution. That's the only one not in the English language. That one's also fairly accessible as well. So it's worth checking out if this seems like maybe something that interests you. If you're interested in like engaging with that kind of like artistic, abstract kind of filmmaking. It's interesting. And like the presentation is really nice. Even like I talked about how like the second disc had like probably too much on it, but like it doesn't, the video quality doesn't really suffer from that. So I'm not going to lodge that as a complaint. These are all really nice. I think all of these come from either a 2K or 4K restoration. They are all listed on the back, but like I don't think it would do. You can look it up, but like they all are pretty much 2K or 4K restorations. And there's a pretty good amount of special features. There are lots of audio commentaries from Nina. There are interviews, Q&As. There's a video essay as well on this, like some of the work of like hers. So this is really packed with special features. And the like you have like a good amount of movies in here to like choose from. Like if you don't completely click with one, maybe you'll connect with the next one. And if you are someone who like appreciates packaging, which I know a lot of our viewers are, I believe there's a limited edition version on the Arbeos website, which I'll also link in the description, where you can get like an exclusive like kind of like slip cover as well. But this is just a standard edition, but I think it's a really cool release, even if like I'm not even sure I understood everything. I can't claim to like completely master every single thing that I watched the first time out, but it is one that I've intrigued me enough to want to view it more in the future.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely didn't like how condescending she was in her documentary. So I would hope that these are absolutely the beacon of you know, womaning correctly in film.
Mm.
And it's funny because, even amazing filmmakers like Catherine Bigelow are still not womaning correctly in cinema. That so say her, not me. But yeah, no, that would be interesting. I do like weird stuff, so that sounds pretty weird.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited to check this next release out, because I'm a big fan of the source material, and I believe with James Gunn's Superman movie that he's currently writing, I think this I've heard rumors that he's developed what he's developing is along the lines of this title, and that is All-Star Superman, which is considered, like, the comic run is considered maybe the greatest Superman run. So in the back, I also just love the slipcover. It's like so shiny. I'm like so simple. I'm like, ooh, shiny things. I love it. So here's the back. So inside, there is a digital copy that's just not in there now, but if you order one, it will have that. Yeah, so this is kind of a mixed bag. So this is from 2011, and of course, as I said, it's an adaptation of Grant Morrison's comic series, which again is considered the greatest Superman story ever told. But yeah, there's definitely things I like and I didn't like, but I'm going to start with some stuff that I did like. I really love the animation style. It definitely draws heavy inspiration from the comic itself, but it also stays in line with the house style of other DC animated films. And this is the same thing that I really liked about the Long Halloween adaptation, where it very much captured that dark, grim, gritty feeling, but it also again stays within their house style. So yeah, love that. Thought the voice acting's great. I don't think I've ever had a complaint with like voice acting with these projects. And yeah, the problem is, if you're a fan of this comic series, it's not as like faithful as, say, the Long Halloween. Yes, that adaptation did tweak a few things, but nothing that really derailed it as far as like the overall kind of characters were still essentially the same. Major plot beats were still very much the same. Here, though, they do change a lot of character beats. The plot is sort of reworked a little bit controversially. I don't know if I want to mention because I don't know if that's a spoiler, depending on if you don't know the comic and you're just going into this fresh, if that's anything that's going to spoil it. So I won't mention that, but that particular plot. But yeah, it's a little bit too convoluted also for its own good. I mean, again, I found it really engaging. I just think I'm such a big fan of the run of comics that I think it doesn't quite stick the landing as far as like being a really good faithful adaptation. But the artwork and animation is stunning. I cannot stress that enough. Like there's stuff that looks like it's comes right from the comic. And I like the pull quote from Lex Luthor there. That's fun. So yeah, it's engaging enough. I mean, especially if you're not super married to the plot, original comics source. But yeah, I found it a little disappointing because I really love that story, like a lot of people do. So it kind of just makes me more hyped for the James Gunn Superman. But it's fine. I love that we get this in 4K. I love the packaging. We do get some really nice featurettes and extras. This isn't just plopped out. And this being slightly older from like 2011, it's nice that we kind of get like a fresh new sort of like look for this. And yeah, the 4K really does a nice job making that like gorgeous animation really pop. So I really appreciate that. I like it. It's a good release. I'm a little bit, it's a mixed bag movie wise.
Yeah, I haven't seen that particular entry into the DC animated line, but this seems like a good opportunity to check it out. Even if I'll once again lower my expectations to a reasonable level. So I'm going to do two releases back to back, actually 4 films. So buckle up. But these, I think they're kind of stylistically related. First, I want to say, because let's call this our silent corner, because I'm tackling all silent films. So first title is from Undercrank Productions, and this is a Frank Borzage 2-pack. So this includes Back Pay and The Valley of Silent Men. I really like Frank Borzage's typical like non-silent work, so his sound work. And so I was excited to check this one out. And so I believe like this team that did this is kind of like a very small operation who's been like responsible for really putting a lot of like love and like stuff into classic like silent films. I think a lot of their work may be primarily like Kickstarter based or like very like grassroots level like restoration project. I've had the pleasure of like corresponding with one of the guys behind this project. He seems really cool and like very like he's like one of us. He wants to make sure like these films are given the best presentation possible. But these 2 films, I'll start with just how they are as films. Back Pay, I'd say that's a fairly engaging watch. It's the one that's more so like a standard or Yeah, because that one's 82 minutes. And it it's not anything I haven't seen before, but it's like done fairly well. It's kind of the story of a woman who she has kind of like a sophisticated lifestyle, but she kind of longs for freedom. But she's like, kind of like torn between like actually having like legitimate love, like with someone who may not have as much money, or living that lavish lifestyle. And like whenever she initially chooses that lavish lifestyle, how that kind of like radiates like throughout her lifetime with the guy that she actually wants to be with. So it's kind of like it's a melodrama, and it's kind of like this woman kind of confronting what she actually wants out of life. It's a pretty solid drama, all things considered. And the Ballet of Silent Men, it's very different. It's like kind of more like a wilderness tale. And it's like kind of like set, I believe it's set in Canada. And so it's like just like it's a tale of like kind of like and it's actually really short as well. It's like 56 minutes. So uh some may debate if it's like a full feature, but like it's still like it's a feature. And it has like a lot of elements of like survival and like wilderness stuff, but then there's like also some criminal elements kind of woven into it and everything. So it's like a really nice balance of like survivalism and crime. But like it's a really entertaining hour of entertainment. So like and it's like between these two films there's like a variety in the genre as well, so like a classic melodrama and like kind of like a more adventure driven tale. So these are two interesting movies from Frank Borzage. And overall, like if you're a silent film fan, I think these are really solid efforts. These releases are I'm glad that they are both each giving their own disc. I will say that despite this logo here, these do appear to be burned disc, so I just want people to be aware. I actually ordered this from Amazon, so I'm not sure if there is a version with press disc out there, but I got burned disc. So I just want to kind of, some people are kind of weird about burned disc. I have a few in my collection. So far, I haven't had any of them fail, and I think like this is such like kind of like a grassroots team that I think that maybe that might have been the way that they had to go, like burning them in batches instead of like doing a match. Because I'm not sure the actual market for like in the modern day for like classic silent film. Like I know we love them, but I would understand if like a smaller production isn't able to do like a full pressed run. But this is a really solid release. Each are given their own disc, despite like that other film being pretty short. I think they probably could have fit on one disc, but they didn't want to like compress it to hell, which is nice. And this has a really nice video quality. These have both been restored. I'll say that back pay is from a 2K scan of the Library of Congress's 35 millimeter preservation materials. And the Valley of Silent Men is a 4K scan of the Library of Congress's 35 millimeter preservation materials. And that one in particular, I will say I'll start with back pay. It's a pretty solid presentation, all things considered. There's still quite a bit of like small bits of damage here and there, as I think anyone who's familiar with silent films from the 1920s would expect. But overall, it's a pretty solid presentation. The Valley of Silent Men's a little bit more problematic. I do want to say that there are some missing scenes, and that they had to supplement with like still images that kind of play, or sometimes they'll include like you can tell there are recreations of like the dialogue cards that come up. So like some of them are the original ones where you'll see like the grain going behind it, and then some are just like the like solid black like new title cards. Because I understand that like some of these elements were in really bad shape, and there is like a section of the movie where there is some very bad damage, which I've seen in some films where it's like you can kind of see where like it looks like just like it was just like degraded to like you'll just have like some of the like middle of the screen just like kind of like corroded. It's not like a large portion of the movie, but I would say that goes on for about like 30 seconds or so, maybe a minute. So there are little bits here and there that are like extremely bad, but like you have to be understanding of like these old movies that you would have never seen otherwise, because the rest of the film looks really good. I just think there's like this section they could not salvage, and they did the best that they could. So I just want to like let people know like there is still some like intense damage in some spots, but this is a really solid release. And like so like there are like some new scores here as well. And there is a 11-minute video essay on Borzage's time at this particular studio, which I believe is at Cosmopolitan Studios. So if you're a Frank Borzage fan, I think this is a really cool release. It's not like one that's getting a lot of publicity because it's not like your typical like Kino or Warner Archive or anything or Criterion. But Undercrank Productions, from what I can tell, they've like really put like a lot of effort into preserving silent films, and I think they deserve your support. Moving on to my other, like speaking of Kino, this is another 2-pack of films directed by Harry Pollard. This is Oh Doctor and Poker Face, which are also come from new restorations from the Universal Library. And these are both on one disc. So this is I believe Oh Doctor is 66 minutes long and Poker Face is 83 minutes long. So it's not really compressed or anything, and they look really nice. I would say on the whole, I think they were working with better preservation elements than the Borzage set because these look really good. Surprisingly, these are like maybe some of the best silent films like that I've ever seen like visually. It's a really fun set. I really enjoyed this. I would say I like Poker Face more than Oh Doctor. Oh Doctor is interesting. It's about like a hypochondriac who is like going through, he's like scared of everything throughout his life. And then I won't go step by step, but he ends up getting into a place where he needs to not die. Like he takes out like a loan and he needs to not die. Or else he'll have to like pay back a certain amount of money or something, or it's whatever. But so he's a hypochondriac. He has a nurse that has to come in to like kind of like protect him, but he seems to believe that she is like a fan of like daredevils basically. So he starts putting his life on the line and kind of like madcap like ridiculousness of like this hypochondriac suddenly gaining confidence and acting reckless, and it's laughs were had. It was great. But Poker Face, I think, is more like my speed. It's about like a guy who gets in over his head because he doesn't know how to ask for a promotion properly at his work, and then he gets into a situation with his wife where she's like, if you aren't going to let me have like the creature comfort of life, I'm going to go back to work. And he like you won't work under my house or whatever, and it kind of gets into a situation where she walks out, and then like his boss asks him to bring his wife to this important dinner to woo this client, but his wife has just left. And then like he hires this woman to pose as his wife, and then whenever he gets at the dinner, his wife has just been hired on as like the new secretary. So it's like misunderstandings and all that kind of stuff. It's a really funny movie. He's called Poker Face because like he's always like kind of stone faced, and the people are like they kind of ascribe their own feelings to him, and they're like, oh, you're thinking this or this, and he's just kind of like and it's just kind of silly and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. It's like it's kind of one of those things of like if you just had a moment to like explain this, you wouldn't get into all these hijinks. But it's a comedy and it's funny, and this presentation is really nice. Like I said, it looks really good. The new scores are good, and this also comes with 2 audio commentary track for each film. And I believe that's all just commentary tracks. But overall, this is a really solid release too. So good couple of weeks for silent films of nice. Fans of silent films. It's pretty good releases.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to check out both of those sets. Yeah. I love that you talked to the guy that did the one set restorations. I think I just love highlighting stuff like that as well, because I feel like these people do so amazing like work, and they often, it's very thankless sometimes. They do this amazing work, and then it takes sometimes years and sometimes like 6 figures to produce something like this for home video, and it's nice to like recognize those people for their hard work. So you were talking about some obscure films, so I'm going to get into some a little bit of obscure films too, but this is more of the gothic horror variety, and that is the Danza Macabra Volume One. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Danza!
Apologies if I'm not. But this is their Italian Gothic horror set. Volume One makes me hope there's going to be a Volume Two, Three, Four. You know, all of those. I did an unboxing video, so I'm not going to like belabor this like completely, but I'll show you. I really like this sort of this packaging. That's something that Vinegar Syndrome does a lot, and I know like Severin's starting to do that now too. The Violent Street set is also set up like that. So I checked out the first two of these, and I will say interesting. So these are the titles. And we're going to start with The Seventh Grave. And I want to just say all of these have a nice amount of special features. Now, Lady Frankenstein has the by far the most features, but my point is Severin didn't just crank these out. There's some real love put into these. So The Seventh Grave is a really weird, kind of obscure Euro horror that was basically a one and done director. This was his only film, and very obscure. And I will say that it looks great, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So this is basically an old dark house style murder mystery. It very much tries to be sort of a moody Bava film, but unfortunately it's very dull.
No.
Yeah, it's got great atmosphere. It really has this wonderful like gothic aesthetic. You know, you have like the castle, you have like weirdness like lepers from a leper colony, just but it's just very dry. Like you'll have like lingering shots of a table because that's like psychically connected to something, and it's just like I'm literally watching a character looking at a piece of furniture. And yeah, it's really hard to sort of reconcile that, but it's entertaining enough. There's some like morbid twists. There's a really fun, I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a fun kind of reveal, like a twist at the end, and then they sort of like sit around explaining you know, a la Psycho at the end, where it's like, oh, you know, we're going to explain the ending now. Like it's something like that. So um this comes from a 2K scan from recently discovered negatives. And holy crap, it looks fantastic. I mean, especially when you consider something that's like this obscure and weird, and like it looks nearly flawless. It really does. Like I was surprised that there wasn't really any damage, there wasn't any like scratches, there wasn't any like debris or anything. Like this is probably bar none the best this film's ever looked or will ever look. And I don't say that lightly. You know, we love stuff we review, but we are also very honest if it looks bad or it's not great. But yeah, this is legit really good. The features are fun, the commentary track is a hoot. So this was the one I was kind of most excited for. It's the Monster of the Opera. And this is actually a sequel to The Vampire and the Ballerina, which is full disclosure, never seen that one, heard of it. Have not seen it, but yeah, is everything I kind of wanted from the previous film. You know, it starts out with this really trippy, surreal, like sequence that turns out to be a dream, but it's like this like vampire that's going full tilt Nicolas Cage with a pitchfork for some reason. This is a very fun, very atmospheric, very lurid, sleazy. I mean, you get that from the cover. Like
Mhm.
this kind of sells everything that this is. I mean, um, it's just very bizarre and weird and fun. I will say, when you think about it, some of the plot doesn't make sense, but it's one of those like if you're just willing to kind of go with the fun of like a dark ride of a movie that just has stuff popping out at you, and stuff that's very campy and cheesy, you'll have a good time. And this also comes from a 2K and looks again phenomenal. Like I was very impressed. Kat Ellinger, we're a big fan of her. She does a commentary track. Holy crap, that is worth the price of this set alone. No notes. But we also get some other really cool features. I will say the one tiny thing I'm disappointed in is I know sometimes they do a soundtrack with these. Um, as far as I know, this doesn't contain any CD soundtracks. I mean, again, that's asking for a lot. It's not a major flaw by any means, and yeah, it's just cool to have these movies, but holy crap, are they looking great. So I'm going to be finishing out this next week, and those titles are uh, Lady Frankenstein. That's the only one that I've actually heard of previously. And as you can see, there is a ton of features.
Yeah.
And Scream of the Demon Lover. And who doesn't love a demon lover?
I
So,
love it.
right, yeah. I mean, yeah. You'd be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't. So, yeah, it's fun for the whole family. But yeah, so that's a little tease for next week. But yeah, so far, holy crap, this set is awesome. Like Severin has been really killing it with these cool box sets that curates these like weird kind of obscure Euro films.
Mhm.
Like them and Danza Macabra, like they've cornered the market on like weird Euro home video stuff. So yeah, I'm loving this box set, and yeah, I hope, like I said, it sells well and there's more volumes because yeah, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that I mean, I love Italian Gothic movies,
Mm.
so I definitely want to check that. Like, I love that all these specialty labels have like suddenly like decided they want to go that direction. So like, bring it on. Like, let's, like you said, 6 or 7 volumes. Let's go for it. All right, then I will close this out here with two titles, very different. I will start with a brand new movie. This is from Music Box Films, and this is Full Time on DVD. There's not a Blu-ray yet. Hopefully, there will be one in the future, but for now, we have a DVD, and it does the trick. Uh, so this is a French film, and I will just say, out of all of my movies, I think this would probably be the one most likely to give someone like a panic attack, probably.
Mm.
Um, this is kind of in the vein of like a like tonally as like a Run Lola Run or a Uncut Gems, where it's just like it's going full tilt, but it's like going like it's taking a very mundane activity and giving it like the most high stakes possible. It's about a worker, like a basically like a housekeeper type person, in a luxury hotel who in Paris, and she lives like kind of like on the like outskirts of Paris, and she knows that it's based like she has like an idea for upward mobility where she knows it's not like reasonable to be working at this like place so far from home, but she thinks that it could like potentially lead to something, and so she's like kind of like sacrificing her own comfort of like having a more convenient job for being in the city. And one day she learns of like a potential position that like she thinks would be perfect for her opening up, but the time where like she has to like navigate her own current working condition at this hotel, uh, she cannot let her bosses find out that she has to slip away for a job interview. And that's kind of like the whole conceit of the movie. It's just like her having to navigate getting like slipping away from her job, like potentially getting people like in on her kind of scheme to like cover for her and try to get to this job in the midst, unbeknownst to her, of a travel workers like union strike. So like all these like travel people have like went on strike. So it's like completely upends all of her plans to like get across the city to this job. So it's like basically a series of just like very stressful like roadblocks to her getting to this job, getting like this interview, and like getting back without potentially losing her job that she has. So it's a very stressful thing, but like what I like about this is there's like like layers and dimension to this movie, where the main character here, she is not completely like a saint or anything. She is kind of like oblivious to certain things like in her orbit. Like there's like signs that there will be like a workers strike like imminently, but she kind of just like tunes it out until it like directly affects her and stuff. And she's like asking like her coworkers to put like their own potential well-being on the line by like covering for her for like with their boss and stuff, and like all that type of stuff. So it's a really stressful, really good movie. Like it's stressful in a good way, like those movies I mentioned. Like I really love those movies. Like it like keeps you like riveted to like really transfixed to the screen. It's 88 minutes of just you're like gripping your seat. You're like, the point of this movie is just this woman getting to a job interview, but you're like world-ending stakes of just like Jesus. But it's so tense. The acting is so good. The direction is like really tight. This is so finely constructed. It's an amazing directorial achievement. So I'm really excited to see more from this director. I think this is like one of like a film that's kind of been more under the radar. But I think if you appreciate like international cinema, like I said, this is a French film. I think it is worth checking out. And like I said, I hope it gets a Blu-ray release. I'm crossing my fingers, but this is worth checking out regardless. This comes with a interview with the director, Q&A also from a French film festival, and then an isolated score track, which I really like the score as well, and the theatrical trailer. So there's a few special features to kind of like make this a little like more worthwhile. But either way, just find a way to watch this movie because it's a really cool movie. And I think a lot of people in our audience would really enjoy it. So Full Time, check that one out. I'm kind of ending with arguably my biggest release of the week, just in terms of just like this is impressive, and I've been really anticipating this. This is it goes by two titles. Some people know it as Supercop. Other people know it as Police Story 3. This is Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh teaming up for a badass action movie. This is from 88 Films. This is the new 4K release. And here's the back. So this is one of their really nice like chipboard boxes. I recently showed off like a couple months ago their release of Dragons Forever, which came in a similar packaging. So here is the standard disc. Here is this here. Got a glare that I'm trying not to get here. And let me see, does it have, yeah, it has reversible art too, so that's cool. Well, kind of. There's no text on it, but you have this, you have the two characters here. So if you just want it's technically reversible art. So you can display that however you want. And this is, as with these packages, you get some cool extras like some poster cards. I won't go too into, but like got some reversible. Here, I'll just get a couple of them out. Here, I think these have different pictures on the back. So let's see here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of these. Yeah, 6 art cards. So that's a cool little extra. And then you also have, I took this off. I kind of like stick these into the package, but here's like the back J card here as well with all this special features. There is a thick, thick booklet here. So the Police Story 3 cover had this here, and like there's so much going on here. So lots of writing, and then finally you got a nice big poster, which these companies giving me these posters, I only have so much wall space. I don't know what they want me to do, but I think it's so cool. So you have this back here, and here as well. So all of this is packed into this here. So this is a really nice presentation. And then you have the 4K and Blu-ray disc here. So that's here. Gotcha. So that's the packaging. I'll dig into the actual movie here in a little bit. So the movie, this is going to seem insane that I jumped in here, but I have not watched the first two Police Story movies, but I own them. I own the Criterion set. I have not dug into them, but this came into my docket and I knew I needed to cover it because people want to know how it is. But I did not feel lost at all. It's Jackie. He plays the titular Supercop, where he is kind of recruited to this assignment where he needs to go undercover and into like kind of this criminal ring. And he has to team up with Michelle Yeoh, who kind of plays like this police captain, leader of this like special team. And it's like an adventure of him like breaking a prisoner out of prison in order to gain his trust, and then like going on the run with him. And then Michelle Yeoh eventually has to kind of join the fun, but and poses his sister. So there's like a lot of like fun, like kind of like almost slapsticky humor between them, where they're like kind of like razzing each other playfully. But like what I really liked is like this never really gets into kind of like the romance territory, which could have been just like kind of like forced. It's like more equal footing between the two, which I really appreciate. Like, because like I love Michelle Yeoh, and she is given like so much time to kick ass in this movie. I really love it. There's a lot of really great action sequences, like the finale especially. I was just like, how are they like pulling off some of these stuff safely? They probably weren't. They were probably having a lot of injuries, but it was a lot of fun. There's a good balance of action and humor. Even it's like some nice character moments. Some stuff's pretty silly, but as like their old police captain, like dressing in drag as like to pose as a grandmother. It's like kind of like the Big Mama's house type thing. But it's all done in like good fun. Like it's not punching down or anything. But others may disagree. I may have just canceled myself. I don't know. But it's a fun movie overall. I think it's like kind of the tradition of this time especially. And overall, it's a really cool, fun action movie, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite Jackie Chan things that I've seen in recent months. Yeah, I've seen a lot of Jackie Chan stuff in the last at least year or so. I would say I'd probably like this more even than like Dragon Forever, which I really liked. So really like Super Cop. It's a lot of fun. Maybe a little bit because it has Michelle Yeoh, but it's really good regardless. So it's a 4K presentation. I believe this, if I'm correct, this was released in a box set, a 4K box set from Eureka overseas. So not domestically. So this is the first 4K in North America. But from what I can tell from online chatter, I do not have that set. This is a little bit different, but pretty much like the same. Like maybe the differences between them are minuscule at best. And I think this is the only way to get it separately if you only want the third one. So the Dolby Vision looks really good. It's a really solid presentation. It's really nice and bright. There's a lot of locations that really pop. The black levels are pretty solid. I didn't see much in the way of compression artifacts. There is a Dolby Atmos track, which sounds really good, but then you also have the original audio, and you have like a couple different language options. There's I believe there's like Cantonese, Mandarin. I think there's an English dub. I believe this has multiple cuts of the movies. I know that the original Hong Kong cut is in here. And I believe there's like another, like maybe international cut as well. And yeah, there's Cantonese, um, yeah, English mono dub, and then yeah, they're international US cut as well. Yes, I was right. Just wanted to double check. There is a commentary track from Japanese film expert Frank Jing, who 88 Films gets for a lot of their releases. He's always very informative. I think he's a really great like person to do these tracks. There's several like archival cast interviews, which are really cool. So you get Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh, the director, I believe Stanley Tong. Yes, Stanley Tong. He is in for an interview as well. There's some behind the scenes stuff, outtakes, different little like featurettes here and there. Overall, pretty stacked release, and a really good one from 88 Films. I think they did a really good job with this release. And I'm glad to have seen this movie. It does make me want to go see the first two Police Story movies, even though I don't think they have Michelle Yeoh. I think I'll still like them. But yes, this is a great release from 88 Films, really solid. And yes, pick it up if you're a Jackie Chan fan. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I haven't seen Police Story 2. I saw the first one and loved it. So yeah, that galvanizes me more to check them all out, get all three, maybe do like a marathon. But yeah, that sounds amazing. I just love the wealth of Jackie Chan stuff that we're getting. You were covering, I think Shout Factory did the two, or yeah, it's two now, right? Like there's the
Yes. Fingers crossed that I'll be able to cover the second set here in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So like there's so much Jackie Chan stuff going on right now. It's hard to keep up, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's an embarrassment of riches. That's awesome. So yeah, that is our episode today. And as always, I'm going to do the obligatory like, comment, share. It's been so cool. I know the last video has gotten a lot of really nice comments and likes. That helps out so much. We really appreciate that. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us.